The crystal chandeliers of La Mer Rouge cast dancing shadows across the pristine white tablecloths as Ethan cross-checked his watch for the third time in 10 minutes. The elegant waterfront restaurant hummed with quiet conversations and the gentle clink of expensive silverware against fine china. His tailored midnight blue suit fit perfectly, his dark hair impeccably styled, yet his expression carried the weariness of a man who had attended one too many obligatory social functions. His executive assistant had arranged this blind date after months of persistent nagging about his non-existent personal life. At 32, Ethan had built the cross-resort empire from nothing, transforming abandoned properties into luxury destinations that attracted the elite from around the world. Success had come at a price. Somewhere along the way, genuine human connection had become as rare as the vintage wine chilling beside his empty plate. The text message appeared just as the waiter approached with the evening specials. Brief and impersonal, his date had cancelled with the vague excuse about unexpected work obligations. Ethan exhaled slowly, prepared to settle the bill, and returned to the solitude of his penthouse office, when a breathless voice interrupted his thoughts. "Excuse me, are you Mr. Cross from Grandview Hospitality Management?" Ethan turned to find a young woman standing beside the table, clutching a worn leather portfolio against her chest. She had honey-brown hair pulled back in a practical ponytail, and her hazel eyes sparkled with nervous anticipation. Her cream-colored blouse was pressed but clearly inexpensive, paired with dark pants that had seen better days. Everything about her presence contrasted sharply with the designer-clad patrons surrounding them. Before Ethan could respond, the hostess glided over with a professional smile. "Right this way, miss. Your table is ready." She gestured toward the empty seat across from Ethan. The young woman slid into the chair with visible relief, setting her portfolio on the table. "Thank goodness I made it on time. Traffic was absolutely terrible, and I was certain I would be late for this interview." She glanced around the opulent restaurant, her eyes widening slightly. "This is quite the venue for a job interview." The email said to meet Mr. Cross at La Mer Rouge for a preliminary discussion about the assistant manager position at the new downtown location. Realization dawned slowly. This woman thought she was here for a job interview. She had somehow confused him with someone else entirely, probably another business owner with a similar name meeting candidates at the same restaurant. Ethan opened his mouth to correct the misunderstanding, then paused. Something about her earnest expression, the way she sat up straighter despite her obvious fatigue, the careful way she opened her portfolio to reveal neatly organized documents, made him curious. How long had it been since someone had spoken to him without knowing his net worth or his influence? When was the last time someone had looked at him and seen just a person, not an opportunity? "Please, continue," Ethan said, leaning back in his chair with genuine interest. "Oh, wonderful." Her face brightened with a smile that transformed her features from pretty to radiant. "Well, my name is Mia Sullivan. I'm currently in my final year of hospitality management at the community college, though I've been working in the industry since I was 16. I started as a housekeeper at the Riverside Inn, then moved to front desk, reception, and for the past 2 years, I've been night manager at the Comfort Lodge on 8th Street. She spoke quickly, her hands gesturing expressively as she described her experience. There was an authenticity in her words that Ethan rarely encountered in his carefully curated business world. She talked about learning to calm angry guests at 2 in the morning, about fixing broken ice machines with nothing but YouTube tutorials and determination, about the profound satisfaction of making someone stay memorable for the right reasons. "I know my resume might not be as impressive as other candidates," Mia continued, her voice softening with vulnerability. "I don't have a 4-year degree, and I've never worked at a luxury property, but I understand hospitality in a way that goes beyond textbook definitions. I believe every guest, regardless of how much they're paying, deserves to feel valued and safe. A hotel should be more than just a place to sleep. It should be a refuge." Ethan felt something shift in his chest. Her words echoed thoughts he had harbored years ago, before profit margins and expansion strategies had consumed his focus. He remembered being a teenager, homeless and desperate, finding temporary shelter in the storage room of a rundown motel. The elderly manager who had discovered him could have called the police. Instead, she had offered him a warm meal and a chance to earn his keep by helping with repairs. That kindness had changed the trajectory of his entire life. It had planted the seed that eventually grew into his empire. Yet somewhere along the way, he had lost sight of that fundamental truth Mia articulated so simply. Hospitality was about humanity, not just profit. The waiter returned, hovering uncertainly. Ethan made a split-second decision that would alter both their futures. "We'll have dinner. Bring us the tasting menu." Mia blinked in surprise. "Oh, I couldn't possibly. This seems rather extravagant for an interview. Consider it part of the evaluation process," Ethan replied smoothly. "I want to see how you handle yourself in an upscale dining environment." Throughout the meal, Mia continued talking, sharing stories that revealed her character far more effectively than any rehearsed interview responses. She spoke about her younger brother, who dreamed of becoming a chef, about her mother, who cleaned houses to supplement her disability income, about the community college professor who had waived textbook fees when Mia couldn't afford them. She asked thoughtful questions about management philosophy and guest relations, displaying an intuitive understanding of hospitality that most of Ethan's experienced managers lacked. When the waiter stumbled slightly while serving dessert, nearly dropping a plate, Mia reached out instinctively to steady his arm, offering a reassuring smile rather than criticism. As coffee was served, Ethan reached into his jacket and withdrew a business card. Not the generic ones he distributed at networking events, but his personal card with his direct office line. Mia accepted it, glancing at the elegant embossed lettering. Her eyes widened as she read the title beneath his name. Ethan Cross, Chief Executive Officer, Cross Resort Empire. She looked up sharply, her face flushing with embarrassment. "You're that Mr. Cross, not the manager from Grandview Hospitality." "I am," Ethan confirmed gently. "I'm so sorry. I've completely wasted your evening. You were obviously expecting someone else. And I just barged in and started talking about myself like a complete fool." Mia started gathering her things, her movements jerky with mortification. "Wait," Ethan said firmly. "You didn't waste anything. In fact, this has been the most interesting evening I've had in years." He tapped the business card still in her hand. "Call my office tomorrow morning. I have a real opportunity I'd like to discuss with you." Mia hesitated, searching his face for signs of mockery or pity. Finding neither, she nodded slowly. "I will. And thank you, Mr. Cross, for your time and your kindness." As she walked away, portfolio clutched tightly once more, Ethan realized he was smiling. For the first time in recent memory, he felt genuinely curious about tomorrow. Sometimes the best things in life arrived unplanned, sitting down at the wrong table with perfect timing. The morning sun streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Ethan's corner office on the 42nd floor of the Cross Tower. He had arrived earlier than usual, an unusual restlessness driving him from his penthouse apartment. His assistant, Jennifer, had raised an eyebrow when he personally instructed her to expect a call from Mia Sullivan to clear his 11 o'clock slot regardless of prior commitments. At T10:57, Jennifer's voice came through the intercom. "Mr. Cross, Miss Sullivan is here to see you." Ethan straightened his tie, annoyed at the flutter of anticipation in his chest. He was a businessman who negotiated multi-million-dollar deals without breaking a sweat. There was no logical reason why meeting with one potential employee should affect him this way. Mia entered his office wearing a simple gray blazer over a pale blue blouse, her hair still in that practical ponytail. She carried the same worn portfolio, but her posture radiated determination mixed with uncertainty. Her eyes swept across the expansive office, taking in the awards lining the walls, the panoramic city view, the subtle displays of wealth and power. "Good morning, Miss Sullivan. Please sit down." Ethan gestured to the comfortable chairs arranged near the window rather than the formal desk setup. "Good morning, Mr. Cross." Mia sat carefully, placing her portfolio on her lap like a shield. "I have to admit, I spent most of last night convinced that yesterday was some kind of elaborate prank. But here I am." Here you are, Ethan agreed, settling into the chair across from her. I want to offer you a position, though perhaps not the one you expected. He explained his vision for a project that had been languishing in development for months. The Hartwell Hotel, a historic property on the edge of the warehouse district, had once been a thriving establishment that offered affordable lodging to working families. Decades of neglect had left it abandoned, a shell of its former glory. Ethan had purchased it with plans for renovation, but every designer and manager he consulted wanted to transform it into yet another luxury boutique hotel. I want something different, Ethan said, leaning forward with intensity. I want to restore it as a mid-range hotel that serves the community, that offers quality and dignity to people who can't afford $500 nights. But I need someone who understands that vision, who can help me remember what hospitality truly means. Mia listened intently, her hazel eyes brightening with each word. You want to create a place that welcomes everyone, just the wealthy, exactly. I want you to work with me on this project as a consultant. You'll provide input on the design, the services, the atmosphere. Help me build something that matters, not just something that generates revenue. Why me? Mia asked softly. You have access to the best consultants in the industry, because you sat at the wrong table and talked about hotels being refuges, because you steadied a waiter instead of complaining, because you understand what it means to need kindness from strangers. Ethan paused, his voice dropping. Because I think you might understand me. The words hung between them, more vulnerable than Ethan had intended. Mia held his gaze for a long moment before nodding. I'd be honored to work on this project with you. Over the following weeks, they fell into an easy rhythm. Mia would arrive at the Hartwell Hotel each morning, armed with notebooks full of ideas and observations. Ethan found himself spending less time at corporate headquarters and more time at the dusty construction site, watching Mia interact with contractors, pointing out details others overlooked. She noticed that the original tile work in the lobby, though cracked and faded, had been handcrafted. She insisted they restore it rather than replace it. She suggested converting the old storage rooms into a small library and community space where guests could gather. She wanted artwork from local artists displayed in the hallways, giving the hotel character and supporting neighborhood creators. Ethan observed her with growing fascination. She possessed an intuitive understanding of how spaces made people feel, how small touches could transform an impersonal room into a welcoming haven. More than that, she treated everyone with the same genuine respect, whether speaking with him or the day laborers hauling debris. One afternoon, while inspecting the second-floor rooms, Mia discovered a section of wall where previous guests had carved their initials and brief messages into the plaster. Most would have considered it vandalism requiring immediate repair. Mia saw something else entirely. Look at this, she called to Ethan, running her fingers gently over the age markings. John and Mary, anniversary trip, 1967. The Rodriguez family who began 1981. These are memories, pieces of people's lives. Could we preserve this somehow? Maybe frame it behind glass as part of the hallway design? Ethan moved closer, studying the weathered inscriptions. He could smell her shampoo, something floral and unpretentious. That's brilliant. It honors the hotel's history while acknowledging the real people who passed through. Mia turned, not realizing how close he stood. Their faces were inches apart. For a heartbeat, neither moved. Ethan found himself noticing details, the gold flecks in her hazel eyes, the faint freckles across her nose, the way her breath caught slightly. She stepped back first, clearing her throat and tucking a loose strand of hair behind her ear. I should measure this section, calculate how much glass we'll need. The moment passed, but something had shifted. They both felt it, that electric awareness that made ordinary interactions suddenly charged with meaning. As autumn deepened, their collaboration intensified. Ethan found himself sharing stories he rarely told anyone. Late one evening, while reviewing fabric samples in the hotel's future manager office, he opened up about his past. I grew up in foster care, he said quietly, staring at the paint swatches spread across the makeshift desk. Bounced between homes, never staying anywhere long enough to feel settled. When I was 15, I ran away. Spent 6 months living on the streets, sleeping in abandoned buildings, bus stations, anywhere I could find shelter. Mia set down the fabric she'd been examining, giving him her full attention. One night, during a particularly brutal winter storm, I broke into the maintenance shed of an old motel, just looking for somewhere dry to sleep. The manager, Mrs. Chen, found me the next morning. She could have called the police. Instead, she made me breakfast and offered me a deal. I could stay in the storage room if I helped with repairs and cleaning. Ethan's voice grew softer. She taught me everything about running a hotel. More importantly, she taught me that kindness could be practical, that helping someone didn't require grand gestures, just consistency, respect, and genuine care. When she passed away 3 years later, she left me a small inheritance, $5,000 and a handwritten note that said, "Build something good." He looked at Mia, finding understanding rather than pity in her eyes. That money became the seed for everything I've built. But somewhere along the way, I forgot Mrs. Chen's real lesson. I got so focused on success and expansion that I stopped asking whether what I was building actually mattered to anyone beyond investors and luxury travelers. Mia reached across the desk, placing her hand over his. "You haven't forgotten. You're here, aren't you? You're building the Heartwell. You're trying to create what Mrs. Chen created for you, a place where people matter more than profit margins." Her touch sent warmth spreading through his chest. Ethan turned his hand over, lacing his fingers through hers. "You remind me of her. The way you see people, the way you care about details that others dismiss as unimportant." They sat in comfortable silence, hands intertwined, until the construction supervisor knocked on the door with questions about plumbing fixtures. But their growing connection hadn't gone unnoticed. The hospitality industry was smaller than people realized, and gossip traveled fast. Within weeks, whispers began circulating about Ethan Cross and his mysterious consultant. A blogger who specialized in business gossip obtained photos of them together at the construction site, heads bent close over blueprints. Ethan's hand on Mia's shoulder as he pointed out something in the plans. The article titled, "From Poverty to Power Couple, Cross Resort." CEO's new romance painted Mia as an opportunistic outsider who had somehow charmed her way into Ethan's professional and personal life. The comment section overflowed with cruel speculation and baseless accusations. Mia discovered the article when a former colleague texted her the link with the concerned message. She read it in the privacy of her small apartment, feeling her stomach twist with each paragraph. The article included details about her community college education, her family's financial struggles, even interviewed former classmates willing to comment on her supposed ambition. Her phone rang constantly, reporters requesting interviews, former acquaintances suddenly interested in reconnecting. Worst of all, her mother called in tears, having been contacted by a journalist asking invasive questions about their family finances and Mia's relationship with Ethan. "Sweetheart, what's going on?" her mother asked, voice trembling. "These people are saying terrible things. They're implying you're using some wealthy man for money. I told them my daughter would never." "I know, Mom, I know." Mia fought to keep her voice steady. "It's all lies and exaggerations. I'm working on a professional project, nothing more." But even as she said the words, Mia knew they weren't entirely true. Her feelings for Ethan had evolved far beyond professional respect. She cared about him in ways that terrified her, that made her vulnerable to exactly the kind of judgment now being publicly leveled against her. The next morning, Mia arrived at the Heartwell Hotel before dawn. She composed a carefully worded email to Ethan, professionally explaining that she needed to step back from the project due to personal circumstances. She suggested several qualified replacements who could continue her work. Before she could send it, Ethan appeared in the doorway. He looked as though he hadn't slept, his usually perfect appearance slightly disheveled, tie loosened, exhaustion evident in the lines around his eyes. "I saw the article," he said without preamble. "I've already contacted my legal team. We're pursuing defamation charges against the blogger and anyone who republished the content without fact-checking." "That won't help," Mia said quietly. "It'll just generate more attention, more speculation. The damage is done." Then we issue a statement clarifying the truth about our professional relationship. And what is the truth, Ethan? Mia met his eyes directly. Can you honestly say this is purely professional anymore? The silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken feelings and impossible complications. No, Ethan finally admitted. I can't say that. Mia nodded, feeling tears prick her eyes. I need to leave the project. Not because of what people are saying, but because staying puts both of us in an impossible position. You have a reputation and a business empire to protect. I have a family that's now being harassed because of their association with me. Don't do this, Ethan said, his voice rough with emotion. Don't let strangers dictate what matters. I'm not, Mia replied, gathering her notebooks and personal items. I'm protecting what matters. My family's peace. Your professional integrity. The Heartwell project itself, which deserves to succeed based on its merits, not become tabloid fodder. She walked toward the door, pausing beside him. For what it's worth, working with you has been the most meaningful experience of my life. You're building something beautiful, Ethan. Don't lose sight of that because of me. Before he could respond, she left, her footsteps echoing through the empty hallway. Ethan stood frozen, torn between chasing after her and respecting her decision. By the time he moved, she was gone, leaving only the faint scent of her floral shampoo and the ache of words left unspoken. 3 weeks passed like a slow hemorrhage. Ethan threw himself into work with punishing intensity, approving designs without his usual scrutiny, attending meetings without really listening. The Heartwell Hotel project stalled without Mia's insight. The replacement consultants offered competent suggestions that lack soul, treating the renovation as just another assignment rather than a mission with meaning. Jennifer, his long-suffering assistant, finally confronted him on a gray November afternoon. You need to either fix this or move on, but you can't keep functioning like a ghost haunting your own company. I don't know where she is, Ethan admitted, the words costing him. She changed her phone number. She's not at her apartment. She's just gone. Jennifer sighed, sliding a folder across his desk. I may have done some research. Her family lives in Riverside County, small town called Cedar Springs. Her mother owns a house on Maple Street. I'm not suggesting anything, just providing information should you need it. Ethan looked at the folder, then at Jennifer. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Go fix your mistake before it becomes a regret. 2 days later, Ethan loaded his truck with supplies and drove 3 hours into rural countryside. Cedar Springs was exactly the kind of small town where everyone knew everyone, where gossip traveled faster than the internet. He found Maple Street easily, a quiet residential area with modest homes and well-tended gardens. Mia's family home was a one-story cottage with faded blue siding and a front porch that sagged noticeably on one side. Autumn leaves covered the lawn, and several shutters hung at crooked angles. It was the kind of place that desperately needed attention, but probably couldn't afford professional repairs. Ethan parked his truck and began unloading lumber, tools, and supplies. He didn't knock on the door or announce his presence. He simply started working, beginning with the porch that looked one strong wind away from collapse. He was measuring boards when the front door opened. Mia stood there, wearing faded jeans and an oversized sweater, her hair loose around her shoulders. Surprise and confusion warred across her expressive face. Ethan, what are you doing here? Your porch is a safety hazard, he replied, marking measurements on a 2x6. The support beams are rotted through. Someone could get seriously hurt. You drove 3 hours to repair my mother's porch? I drove 3 hours because I needed to see you. The porch repair is practical application while I figure out what to say. Mia descended the steps carefully, arms wrapped around herself against the autumn chill. You shouldn't be here. Nothing has changed. The gossip, the complications, they're all still real. You're right, Ethan said, setting down his tools and facing her fully. Nothing has changed except that I've spent 3 weeks realizing I don't care about the gossip. I don't care what strangers think or what bloggers write. I care that you're not there anymore. I care that the Heartwell Hotel feels empty without your ideas and your passion. I care that I wake up every morning thinking about you and go to bed every night regretting that I didn't fight harder to make you stay." Mia's eyes glistened with unshed tears. "I can't be the reason your reputation suffers. I can't be responsible for damaging everything you've built. My reputation is based on cold business acumen and ruthless negotiation tactics," Ethan said gently. "Maybe it's time people saw something different. Maybe it's time I showed them that the man who built an empire from $5,000 and a handwritten note still remembers where he came from and values people who possess genuine kindness over artificial prestige." He stepped closer, close enough to see the gold flecks in her hazel eyes that he'd memorized during their weeks working together. "I'm not here to pressure you or make promises I can't keep. I'm here because you matter to me in ways that have nothing to do with business or projects or professional collaboration. I'm here because when I imagine my future, you're in it, and the alternative feels hollow." A tear slipped down Mia's cheek. "I've missed you so much." "Then come back," Ethan urged. "Not to the project, not to work. Come back to me. We'll figure out everything else together." Mia laughed through her tears, a sound that felt like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. "You're fixing my mother's porch as a romantic gesture. That's possibly the most you thing I've ever witnessed." "I'm a practical man," Ethan said, his lips curving into a rare, genuine smile. "Romance and home repair aren't mutually exclusive." Over the next 2 days, Ethan worked on the house repairs while Mia helped, the two of them falling back into their easy rhythm. Her mother, Rosa, observed them with knowing eyes, occasionally bringing out coffee and homemade pastries, asking Ethan thoughtful questions about his life and his intentions. On the second evening, as the sun painted the sky in shades of amber and rose, Ethan and Mia sat on the newly repaired porch. The sturdy boards no longer creaked, the railings stood straight, and fresh paint gleamed in the fading light. "I've made a decision about the Hartwell," Ethan said quietly. "I'm converting the top floor into permanent affordable housing units. Not hotel rooms, actual apartments for people who need stable homes at reasonable rent. Mrs. Chen gave me shelter when I had nowhere to go. This is my way of continuing that legacy." Mia turned to him, wide with understanding. "That's beautiful, Ethan. It was your influence," he admitted. "You reminded me that hospitality isn't just about serving guests. It's about creating community, offering dignity, and people feel they belong somewhere. I lost sight of that, but you brought me back." He reached for her hand, threading his fingers through hers, just as he had that evening in the Hartwell office. "I don't know what the future holds. I can't promise the gossip won't start again or that people won't judge. But I can promise that I'll stand beside you through all of it. I can promise that my feelings are real and not going anywhere." Mia squeezed his hand, her voice thick with emotion. "I'm scared. I'm scared of being hurt, of not being enough, of the world that comes with being part of your life." "I'm scared too," Ethan confessed. "I'm scared of losing you again. I'm scared of failing you the way I failed to protect you from the media attention. But I'm more scared of the regret I'll carry if I don't at least try to build a life with you." They sat in comfortable silence as stars began appearing in the darkening sky. Rosa emerged with blankets, draping them over the couple's shoulders before retreating inside with a satisfied smile. "Come back to the city with me," Ethan said softly. "Not immediately. Take whatever time you need. But come back. Help me finish the Hartwell. Help me remember what matters. Help me build something that would make Mrs. Chen proud." Mia leaned her head against his shoulder. "Okay, but we do this carefully, honestly. No hiding, no pretending the complications don't exist. We face everything together." "Together," Ethan agreed, pressing a kiss to the top of her head. 2 months later, Mia returned to find the city transformed by early winter. Ethan picked her up from the bus station personally, no driver, no corporate vehicle. Just him in his truck with nervous energy and cautious hope. Their first stop was the Hartwell Hotel. The exterior renovation was complete. The historic facade restored to its original elegance while maintaining accessibility and modern safety standards. But it was the interior that took Mia's breath away. Ethan had implemented every suggestion she'd made, every detail they discussed. The handcrafted lobby tiles gleamed, restored to their former glory. The carved wall of guest memories was preserved behind protective glass, positioned prominently in the main hallway. The community library occupied a sun-filled space near the renovated restaurant. Local artwork adorned every wall, and in the lobby, a bronze plaque read, "The Hartwell Hotel, established 1952, restored 2024, in memory of Mrs. Chen, and in honor of all who believe hospitality means offering dignity, safety, and belonging to every person who walks through our doors." Mia stood before the plaque, tears streaming freely. "You did it. You built something that matters. We did it," Ethan corrected, wrapping his arm around her waist. "This is as much yours as mine." The hotel's grand reopening attracted attention, but this time, the narrative was different. Ethan gave interviews explaining his vision, openly discussing his past, and introducing Mia not as a romantic interest, but as a valued consultant whose insight had shaped the project's direction. He addressed the previous gossip directly, calmly stating that his personal life was not public property, but that he made no apologies for surrounding himself with people who possessed integrity, compassion, and genuine talent, regardless of their educational pedigree or social connections. The hospitality industry responded positively. Other developers reached out, interested in similar community-focused projects. The Hartwell became a case study in socially responsible renovation, proving that profit and purpose weren't mutually exclusive. But for Ethan and Mia, the most meaningful moments happened away from cameras and public attention. They fell into a relationship built on mutual respect, shared values, and the understanding that they had both been shaped by struggle into people who appreciated genuine connection over superficial success. 1 year after their first accidental meet, Ethan planned something special. He asked Mia to meet him at La Mer Rouge, the upscale restaurant where everything had begun. She arrived wearing a simple but elegant dress, her honey brown hair styled in loose waves, nervous anticipation in her hazel eyes. The hostess led her to the same table where she'd accidentally sat a year earlier. Ethan stood waiting, wearing the midnight blue suit from that first evening, but his expression was warmer now, more open, transformed by love and trust. "I thought we should return to where it all started," he said, pulling out her chair. They ordered the tasting menu, just as they had that first night, but this time, they knew each other deeply. They laughed over shared memories, discussed future projects, dreamed about possibilities that felt within reach now that they faced them together. As dessert arrived, Ethan reached across the table, taking both her hands in his. "A year ago, you sat at the wrong table and changed my entire life. You reminded me that success means nothing if it's built on forgotten values. You showed me that true strength comes from vulnerability, that kindness is practical, and that the most valuable things in life can't be measured in profit margins or market shares." He released one of her hands to retrieve a small velvet box from his jacket pocket. Mia's breath caught as he opened it, revealing a ring with a simple but stunning design, an emerald-cut diamond set in platinum, elegant without being ostentatious. "Mia Sullivan, you walked into my life by accident, but loving you is the most deliberate choice I've ever made. Will you marry me?" Tears spilled down Mia's cheeks as she nodded vigorously. "Yes, absolutely yes." Ethan slipped the ring onto her finger, then stood and pulled her into his arms. Around them, other diners applauded, caught up in the obvious emotion of the moment. The hostess smiled knowingly, having recognized them from a year ago, and understanding the beautiful symmetry of their return. Later, as they walked along the waterfront beneath a canopy of stars, Mia leaned into Ethan's warmth. Who would have thought that sitting at the wrong table would lead to this? "It wasn't the wrong table," Ethan replied, pressing a kiss to her temple. "It was exactly the right table. We just didn't know it yet." They stood together watching moonlight dance across the water, two people who had found each other through accident and chosen each other through intention, proving that sometimes the best love stories begin with unexpected encounters and unfold through genuine connection, mutual respect, and the courage to build something real in a world that often valued appearance over authenticity. The Hartwell Hotel thrived, becoming a model for community-focused hospitality. Ethan's business empire evolved to prioritize social impact alongside financial success. And Mia, the girl who had once walked into the wrong interview, became his partner in every sense, helping him build not just hotels, but homes for the heart. Their story reminded everyone who heard it that true belonging doesn't come from sitting at the right table in society. It comes from finding the person who makes any table feel like home.